This week we're joined by Larry Burrows, head of the Rokstone North American Casualty team. This is a guy that knows what it takes to build something from scratch.
After years working in larger, more traditional balance sheet models, Larry made the jump to the MGA platform at Rokstone, and he hasn't looked back.
From carrier constraints to the casualty crunch, we talk about what it takes to underwrite with discipline, lead with ownership, and back yourself when the stakes are high. I'm James Potter.
I'm Ian Anson.
And welcome to Virtual Lunch. Thanks for joining us today, Larry.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We've had a number of great people on our show so far, so hopefully you won't disappoint.
I'm sorry I've lowered the tone.
Yeah, don't let us down.
Don't let us down. So tell us about yourself, Larry. I feel like this is a little bit like blind date. What's your name? Where are you from?
The royal us, we know you. But
Yeah.
Yeah, what would you like to know? 6 foot.
You're not 6 foot.
He is in his heels.
5'11" and a half.
According to my girlfriend, I am.
Do you round it up for your Tinder profile?
Yeah, obviously one standard deviation within. That's the main thing.
And we're back to his underwriting.
Tinder, a long time behind me, thank God. We've already gone off topic. Tell me about
That's
yourself. I guess bit of an insurance nerd, as much as you can get insurance nerds.
Why did you put the word insurance in there?
Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
I was just talking to these guys before we started about how I've rebuilt a coffee machine and rewired it and rebuilt it, and that probably sums me up, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the milk was still bad.
Yeah, as we judge our coffees. I started back in probably 20 years ago at Wellington when I was hired in sort of school holidays to come in, and ended up.
Sorry to interrupt you. Did you expect to be in insurance,
No.
or you just fell into it like the rest of us?
No, I thought I never really knew what I wanted to do. So like a lot of people,
Rocket scientist.
you fall into it, don't you? Yeah, I think when you look at my levels, I did business studies, computer science, biology, and English literature. So like 4 completely different subjects. Clearly had no idea what I want to do with my life. Went to uni to study computer science. Failed at that abysmally because you actually got to be pretty bright to do that. Did learn how to code, which has been helpful. And then changed and pivoted into psychology. So classic insurance professional. I think very varied. But I thankfully knew someone who worked at Wellington who got me a job working in the back office, and seemed to impress them because I basically within about a month automated all their reporting and. And they were like, "Oh, you can come back." I did.
Did you actually fail at computer science, or were you being self-deprecating?
I turned up at uni, and I quickly realised that you had like 1 hour of contact time a week, and this is at Bristol Uni, and so you had to be very self-starting, really, really into it, and they basically went, "Go and program an operating system," and I was like, "What?
Yeah.
How do you do that?"
I bet you're really pleased with the student debt of 1 hour a week.
It's I needed a bit more hand-holding, I think, to be honest. And that's one of the challenges of uni, isn't it? You sort of learn how to be more self-starting, how to think independently or learn independently. And it's definitely tough when you've come out of school and used to sort of syllabuses and get thrown into that. So I did give it a good crack, but I quickly realised that, it was very mathematical, which I don't mind, but and very, deep coding. You're talking like machine language. So this is like way beyond anything.
It is something you really need to know about.
Yeah, you got to really love it. If I'd stuck at it, I probably would have been like an AI dude now, and probably at the zeitgeist of modern tech. Funnily enough, I went to school with Mustafa Suleiman, who did end up becoming one of the founders of DeepMind, and is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. So. Who knows? But I'm very happy with my choice to join the insurance industry, especially now.
If it makes you feel better, in the context of insurance, you actually are like the rocket scientist, AI whiz. So you kind of got there in a weird roundabout way, didn't you?
Yeah, I guess, as you know, Ian, having sort of signed off on some of my more wacky ideas recently, and hiring people to do Power Automate and pushing like new projects and stuff that we're working on with AI and things. Yeah, we are keen to do quite a bit of that sort of thing. But I think everyone needs to now, because if you don't, you get left behind.
We'll come on to that later.
You was given the opportunity to get into Wellington. What happened next? Sounds like a question of sport.
I worked for a lovely man called Paul Smith, who sadly isn't with us anymore, but he he ended up moving to Aspen some years later and offered me a temp job, basically. There was an underwriter called Ben Galloway who's still in the market and writes international business now. But and I worked with the two guys, Stuart Ray, who's now out in Nevada and very successful producing wholesaler for Amwins, and a guy called Peter Harris. Both very talented individuals, both bright but sort of also like to have a lot of fun. It was an interesting indoctrination into the industry. We may have spent as much time in the pub as we did sort of underwriting, but I learned a hell of a lot. It was, yeah, I sort of came into this temp role for what was meant to be 3 months and ended up being put on the graduate scheme, and that was that really. Yeah, sadly those guys did leave in 2010, and I stayed on and then ended up working with Nicola Wood and Bob Patton and some of these characters that came over from Excel, Dublin, and again, really strong individuals and
some big names in the casualty industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and a really great training ground, to be honest. And the thing about US casualty as well, in particular US, because of its volatility, it's so broad. The amount of different classes of business we look at, the amount of the variety of attachment points, and you're always learning. And it's been great to have quite a few different mentors over the years, really, because you're never the finished article, to be honest. And I think the day you think you are is probably, the day you're probably moving backwards, really, because you've got to keep adapting, haven't you?
So just on that, for the younger listeners or people maybe new to the industry, could you just explain a little bit about your line of business and what makes it special and different?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, it's just topical for me because we've just hired a UA, a chap called Lex, and I'm literally been spending this morning trying to explain just a handful of the acronyms that we use on a daily basis. But our line of business is US liability, and we also known as US Casualty, and we are insuring the liability, third-party liability exposure of our clients to bodily injury and property damage principally. But I mean, that can span a number of things. It can manifest as an auto accident on a highway with a truck. It can be a railroad derailing. It can be an autonomous vehicle going sort of off-piste and possibly having an accident. It could be a product that someone makes, an industrial product or a consumer product that causes harm or injury down the line or immediately. There's lots of different scopes in which we're sort of trying to consider how can this sort of materialise. And I guess it's known as a liability class for being quite long tail. Famously, I guess Lloyd's, faced the issues of asbestos and pollution in the 80s, and as a result of that, we have different wordings now, like occurrence reported and claims made, that help us manage the tail. We're always doing horizon scanning, trying to look at what might be coming at us down the line, and that's one of the areas where AI and so on has actually really helped, because there's software out there now that we use, like Predicat, which is scanning journals on a daily basis, scientific journals, looking at what the next sort of big causes of public injury could be. You hear a lot in the public discourse now about like ultra processed foods and PFAS and microplastics, those sort of things. So we're constantly vigilant to that. But then, that being said, our book is geared more away from that consumer products exposure, because that's one of the areas you're seeing quite a lot of the inflation in verdicts, which is one of the hot topics of our class at the moment.
So you spent a long part of your career in sort of heavy hitting, balance sheet businesses. Could you describe to us your thought process and the decision process that you went through to join a more entrepreneurial outfit like Rokstone?
Yeah, I think MGAs, maybe sort of 5 to 10 years ago, people looked down their noses at them a little bit more, I guess, and I'm probably guilty of that too. And I think there's a prestige in working with big name established carriers, and I've worked for a few of them over the years, and those have been the places that have shaped me, and I'm very grateful for the exposure and experience and the safety net I think that comes with probably more of the traditional bigger balance sheet operations. But I think what we're witnessing generally at the moment is more of a flight to quality now with MGAs, and the sort of calibre of people they're able to attract is definitely improving across the board. The quality of capital that's backing them, I think, is better too. And I think where there's alignment, as I think the MGA model really pushes and supports, there's a huge amount of motivation. You're able to hire great people, as I've been able to, luckily for me, and you're on a collective journey where everyone's incredibly motivated. And I think also when you're running your own P&L, you know, those line items of costs and so on, you know, there's nowhere to hide. It's accountable to you. You know, it lets you make decisions quickly. If you want to initiate projects to sort of innovate, as we've done in just 6-7 months' time, you know, you can really action things really fast, and that's been amazing. Actually, it's surprising to me just how quickly we've been able to do quite a lot of things we've managed to do. So yeah, it felt like more of a risk at the beginning, but now that I'm in it, I'm absolutely delighted with the results and where we're going and the support we have. I mean, and it really helps. Obviously, I've had you, James, and you, Ian, backing me, and the team behind you, David, and so on.
I'll pay you later.
Yeah.
Was there a particular moment or, you know, conversation that happened that you thought, I've got this, I can do this for myself?
I think you helped inspire me. You're very good at that. You know, giving me that self-belief. I think you know instinctively that you've got the tenure, the reputation to sort of have a go at this, but you know, you need a lot of support with people like yourselves who are well connected to capital and capacity, and you know, to give you that drive and belief that you can do it. So thank you for that. But also, I guess, yeah, that real turning point was probably when, you know, the insurance paper and with Hiscox and the reinsurance panel behind it started to come together. A great panel who I'm really grateful to for supporting us, and you know, we feel a great sense of duty to reward that loyalty. So I think, yeah, once that starts to come together, you start to breathe a bit more of a sigh of relief, and you can start to see, yeah, this is going to work, and it gets, yeah, the stress meter sort of starts to dial down a bit more.
So once you took that initial risk, or that sort of jump off the ledge where you say, right, we're going to come out the safety net of obviously, you know, a traditional kind of balance sheet setup, and then you become business owners. You come into Rokstone, part of the synergy program, and you and you know, the people that you ultimately recruit become business owners. Talk about how that makes you feel and what it's sort of changed in your life or potentially your self-esteem to become a true business owner.
It feels absolutely massive, to be honest, and it's a key motivation, no doubt about it. But I think the reasons you go to work are for, you know, the people you work with, the culture, you know, the journey, and the out, you know, the sort of the professional pride in building something. But to know you have alignment, to know that you're an owner, that you have a stake in this, and a bit more control and influence in the direction that you're moving in, has been really cathartic. I've worked for some, as you mentioned, sort of some big balance sheets where it flows very much downhill, and the structure of organisations can become quite rigid, and the frameworks of you know, layers of hierarchy and management and so on are quite numerous and layered, and with that, you know, the inertia that comes with sort of sometimes trying to initiate projects or make decisions, which are, you know, inherent sometimes in just big organisations. So and they don't always, you know, you're taking a risk professionally all the time, especially in casualty classes. It can be difficult, where the downside can be meaningful if it goes wrong. So to have a bit of the upside too, and taking that ownership, I don't know, it's just hugely motivating. We feel a great sense of responsibility to make this a success, and I honestly don't think I've ever worked harder, nor has the team. Their wives aren't very happy with me at the minute, but it will hopefully get a bit easier. Yeah, it's just a huge motivator, and it's fun. I think to know that you're sort of working towards something that is aligned with your own success is just more rewarding on a day-to-day basis. Even when you're putting in those long hours and leaving the office quite late, you know, it's not that same sense of frustration. Perhaps you know, it's you know why you're doing it. Yeah, that's really cathartic, and yeah, I think I can speak for the whole team, and I can say, and everyone's aligned in that respect. That's been hugely beneficial for all of us. The sense of motivation we have.
In some respects, there's nothing more difficult than setting up a business. Could you just talk us through the first 12 months? What's made it a success? And look, you're in US Casualty, tough class. What are you guys doing differently, and what differentiates you and your business to others in that space?
Making this a success requires lots of things to be in the right place. That's the company that you're working with, and Rokstone, and that was a huge pull factor. The culture that exists there, the Atomics Lab investments on the innovation side, the teams that surround you, be it actuarial, claims, and so on, and having the bandwidth to hire the right people. Very quickly when we got going, we reached out to Stephanie, who's come in on the claims side. She's phenomenal. Having a great team of individuals. Ben and Alex are fantastic, and we're looking to recruit again more senior underwriters soon. That's crucial. You guys have allowed me to do that, and I can do it without them. So right people, right place, but then obviously the capital and the support we've had, that's critical. Good quality paper. I've wanted to sort of remove every obstacle that perhaps our broker network and client network would have in terms of their perception of what an MGA should be. For us, that's having good quality, really good quality, high-rated paper, and a team, Hiscox, who really understand what we do because they know the class of business. And behind them, the reinsurance panel that are also phenomenal. And then, as I mentioned, Stephanie on claims, she's brilliant. We want to be a market that to our clients is known as being able to adjust and react to complex claims quickly. And for us, it's about trying to build a sustainable portfolio, a sustainable brand. And I think you said what is critical for it being a long-term success, which is what we're absolutely aiming for. And we're not growing too aggressively. We're thankfully not in a position where we're having to sort of aggressively compete against incumbents. Our market is in a favourable position at the moment, and also the initiatives that I think Rokstone have really supported us in, which is the building out an ability to capture really good data. And I'm sure we'll go into that a bit because I think we're probably trying to lead the way a bit in how we're doing that. But there's a sort of approach with US Casualty where there's a lot of subjective underwriting. It's quite analytical. As I say, we meet a lot of different people and it's quite complex risk. But I want to be in a position where you can sort of trust but verify what we're doing. And so we are sort of launching initiatives that are able to sort of use AI to ingest loss runs, to turn unstructured data into structured data so that we can start to validate on a portfolio basis the sort of loss ratios that we're expecting to run to, validate rates, ILF curves, you name it. There's a lot of stuff sat out there that if you could just sort of get your hands around it and turn it into meaningful information, gives you a real edge and an ability to corroborate what you're saying. And I think for us that brings a lot more buy-in from our stakeholder partners in terms of what we're doing. And we're really pleased to say that Rokstone have really helped us launch those initiatives. I mean, frankly, I was sat down with David one evening in the office with Ben, and he was just saying, "How you getting on?" And I was like, "Well, great, but we could really do with this. We've had this brainwave." And he goes, "Great, fine, let's do it." And the next day, I think we had a sign off for 60k headcount in the Atomics Lab to go out and build this piece of software, which James Fairgrieve and his team are now working on, and we're already testing the output of those initial results. So fantastic. That sort of thing would have taken a long time to do.
Well, this is a great segue, to be honest with you, to my next question. So, I mean, your team and team members have risen the bar within Rokstone. I suppose, tell us a bit more about the innovative applications that you and the team are working on, and can you describe your vision for an underwriter going forward?
I guess we are very subjective underwriters. There's a lot of qualitative processes involved which come from experience, and so we meet most of our clients. I'd say 90-95% of the clients we meet annually. So But as I mentioned before, we want to supplement that process of risk filtering and selection, and we know what our appetite is, but also with really good data that sort of helps look at trends, helps us validate loss performance and so on. And so that's where we're trying to sort of lead the way. And we are, I guess, working with the Atomics lab at Rokstone, James Fairgrieve and his team, who have been brilliant to build this system. And basically, when we receive a submission at the moment, you might get 10 loss runs in one file. And that might be PDF, it might be Excel, you'll have the TPA loss run in there, the lead carrier, and then some excess carriers maybe. We're now in a position where this sort of automation process will consolidate that loss information to a ground up loss run, and even using AI will start to tag each claim entry by reading those loss descriptions and assess it for like severity. So now we can start to look at things like development of open claims. We can even start to look at individual carriers' own reserving trends by sort of comparing it against closed claims and sort of get a view where, if it's that carrier or that carrier, we should load the open claims a bit more or dial it down. So, and that's huge, because, if you do that to not just the bound risks that you're writing, but also the whole suite of submissions that we receive, and we're talking thousands every year, the wealth of information that we get through that process is absolutely massive. So we can turn around to our reinsurers, hopefully in a few months before renewal, and produce for them this huge data set that we've captured, which we can sort of reverse engineer against our limit attachment points and risk selection, and use that to really validate what we're doing. And that's difficult to do, and we've tried it before, and it's intensively manual process previously. We've hired temps and all sorts of things to do it, and it's barely scratched the surface. So that's just one example of the things we're doing in a minute.
So James mentioned your team has raised the bar in respect of innovation at an underwriting level. How do you think but other companies can harness the innovation in the teams that exist in the businesses, and what are your views on spreading these innovative ideas through the business?
I think, not to get too geeky, but one of the things I think I mentioned to you, Ian, the other day was Power Automate, which is this suite of software that sits within Microsoft. And I think anyone that's got like a 365 Office subscription sort of, in theory, has access to this stuff. And before, it was a very clunky system, and unless you were really adept on how to use it, it wasn't really something that was accessible to the average user. But now they've sort of paired it with their AI system, which is, I think, ChatGPT and so on behind it. What's it called? Copilot.
Yeah.
And that helps you guide you through processes that you can use to really start turning sort of some of that repetitive processes that exist in all of our sort of working lives, be it bordereau generation or reporting, or looking at data sets that we use from sort of third-party federal data sets. It'll help you sort of crunch some of that stuff and really start pulling it in so you can use it on a daily basis. It's sort of that lower hanging fruit that sits outside of those core big projects that most companies are running to build, important control around systems. But like for everyday use, I think it will, in theory, it has the potential to become like as ubiquitous as most people use Excel or Word. You'll start to use these sort of systems, to triage emails and things like that. And that's what we're doing already with it. So it's, we kind of did it by necessity because there's only 3 of us at the minute. And from a productivity standpoint, it's allowed us to be a lot more productive, which gives us better service to brokers and the rest of it.
Yeah, and we're trying to take that on now, aren't we, and spread that through all of the different teams at Rokstone, just to augment all the innovation that's going on brilliantly by James's team and everything else.
So outside of your team, who would you say is the best underwriter?
Oh, you've really put me on the spot.
In the market?
Yeah.
Oh, that's such an unfair question. I'm not going to answer that, to be honest with you, because I think everyone has strengths and weaknesses.
How about rebadging it? What about outside of your team, in your career, who's had the biggest influence on you as a leader or an underwriter? I'd probably put Nicola Wood, because I've worked with her for so long over the years. I think we sort of had a lot of influence on each other.
And so yeah, for a long part of my career, we were sort of working hand in hand, and she's an incredibly diligent underwriter, and very well respected, and never rests on her laurels. She's always pushing and striving to sort of be the best at what she can do, and I've always found that inspirational. But I also most recently worked with Nick Waddell at Convex, and he's also phenomenal, and a great example of an individual who sort of takes a second look at things and sort of finds the angle to make it work. And we sort of I think you pick up different skill sets from the different people you work with, and there are many other examples of great underwriters in our market that I can name. I'd say Paul Bland has been a pioneer for the US Casualty market in London, and lots of people have worked with him over the years, and the experience of working with Paul has sort of created the next generation, I think, of a lot of other underwriters. So I don't know, I'll get in trouble for not naming names, to be honest, because I think everyone brings a bit to it, really. I think the Lloyd's market does tend to operate in a way where the whole can be greater than the sum of its parts. At least it should. It doesn't always, but I think sometimes we collectively bring, hopefully, some good bench strength. And I might be strong in some areas where, frankly, Ben isn't, or another underwriter isn't, but those underwriters will be stronger than me in many areas. And sometimes we offset that against one another and collectively create a good result. So yeah, it's a tricky one to answer. It's an inherently complex class of business, so you do see a lot of nuance in different areas.
So
I've dodged that a bit.
that was that was not a bad dodge.
Splinters in your bottom.
You won't be able to dodge this one. So before joining Rokstone, you had the pick of several MGAs, and you chose us. Why? And what did you think of Rokstone when we first engaged?
Well, you wouldn't take no for an answer, James. I always wanted it to be Rokstone, and I think the advantage that some of the other MGA platforms that I spoke to initially had was some of the ready-built, market-wide sort of solutions to the paper, and so like they may have had their own syndicate or risk retention vehicle, which sort of got you over that first hurdle, because I think my relationships were stronger on the reinsurance side, but getting the paper that you're underwriting, the cover holder agreement with that key stakeholder partner to enable you to sort of get lines down and trade, that isn't my area of expertise. I think that's where you shine. But some of those other companies, I guess, had that ready made, and US Casualty is not an easy class. We're like a rounding error for the market, but there's a lot of explaining to do as to why you do it differently or properly, and it's easy to tar everybody with the same brush, and for good reason, because it's not easy. But so there's a lot of work to be done with US Casualty, I guess, to sort of convince people that you know what you're doing, that you're going to be sensible, grow things sustainably, build it right, and there's a few more hurdles probably to jump through in order to secure that capacity, I guess, and that was the only sticking point. Otherwise, couldn't be happier to be part of the Rokstone family.
So what did you hope you'd find at Rokstone in terms of a culture and a place to work, and what have you found? Like, has anything surprised you?
Well, I remember chatting to James and David about sort of the vibe being, this is a place where you can have a sort of barbecue on a Sunday around each other's houses and you just sort of get on with each other. And I was hoping that wasn't just, a line. But, genuinely, it's just been...
You have been around my house.
I have. It's been a delight. I think the company is quite young. I mean, frankly, I look at you, Ian, and you, James, and David, and Alex, the CFO, and people are either in their 30s or 40s, and not to be sort of ageist about it, but I think it feels quite young and dynamic. I think it feels like there is opportunity to grow with the company, which is really nice. I think it's not pretentious. There's a real sense of, you'll just, if you've got ideas and you want to run with it, go. And let us get out of your way. What do you need to just succeed and let us help you do that. And that's been really refreshing. I think all companies have that intention, but sometimes, the rigidity of structures, the inertia means that in practice it's not always easy to do that. And I think I'm one of these people that has a lot of ideas, but doesn't, can struggle to sometimes execute them. And here I found that, the processes you guys and the wider team have just made it really easy for us to sort of just execute ideas, and that's great for innovation. Ben and Alex are the same. I think they've really found it. We talk all the time about we should be doing this and what should we change or tweak, and we talk about it with genuine excitement, because we know if we come up with something, we can actually action it pretty quickly. As I say, the stuff we built in 6 months, I couldn't have dreamed of doing that 6 months ago.
I really believe that we should all be enablers, really. We should never be blockers, right? And there's so much talent in all of the underwriting teams who are so specialist, so good at what they do. The opportunity is how do we harness that and scale it? We've got a community of people there, and it's about extracting all of the greatness out of them, isn't it? Rather than just sitting there and directing people exactly what to do and what to follow. Obviously there's governance and checks and balances, but I think as we get bigger and continue to grow, one of the key things we have to do is work out how we keep enabling people to show their flair, and how we extract it and share it and embed it in the company.
There's nothing better for me than seeing people thrive. It's really nice to sort of feel, you see people comfortable in their own skin, right? Happy, smiley, big. They're soft words, but are very very meaningful to me. It's great to see you and the team, shooting for the stars and doing very, very well.
It also helps that David's son's Ollie Behrman, and we get to go to the F1 sometimes.
Unlinked. So someone told me in the office that you're quite good at impressions. Is that true?
It's not true.
Not true.
I've always done impressions, and they sometimes get me into trouble, I think.
Let's have a go at that.
What's your most favourite impression?
Well, before we started this, I was saying that when I was at uni, a mate of mine worked at Bristol radio station, so I got invited to do a few voice effects and stuff like that, coming this fall, Bristol University's latest challenge, and just silly things like that. Accents, things that I probably couldn't get away with half the time anymore. But I briefly attempted a career in sort of comedy writing. Did once get invited to do the Edinburgh Festival with a friend. It was shocking, as in we got a 9:30 a.m. slot where the only people that turned up were
the cleaners,
people with their grandchildren. So it was a very tough gig. My efforts to sort of be the next comedy genius have faced reality. But it's just a bit of fun.
But what's your
you
best
can tell
impression?
when I'm relaxed. What's my best impression?
Yeah, on the spot.
I used to do quite a good Tony Blair. And even a William Hague. I would, as a child, I would go there and carry the pints around. I don't know, lots of different things. Other underwriters in the market. Famously, a few that I probably shouldn't put on this podcast because they're retired and would be upset.
Oh, it's all right if they're retired. It's fine.
I used to famously take off an old CEO at Aspen called Chris O'Kane, and his PA was actually in on the joke. So occasionally I'd go to his office and use his phone to, I shouldn't say this, but ring other people in the company and pretend to be Chris O'Kane. Say, I would very much like it if you came to my office immediately. And that's probably a terrible impression now because I haven't really heard his voice in years. But these people would be suddenly like, oh my God, what's going on? I'm slightly more professional these days.
Did you ever fire anyone in the style of Chris O'Kane?
I used to joke by saying, "You're fired." Get out.
All right.
Because he was quite a tough guy.
So in the style of Tony Blair, could you please describe the traits that you'd be looking for in an underwriter were you to be hiring in the market?
I think we need someone that's talented, approachable, very dynamic, and open-minded to new opportunities.
There's a certain bit of Chris Eubank in there as well.
That's the list that I keep adding at the end. Yeah. Hopefully that's not too disastrous. There'll be people listening to this cringing.
In the style of Arnold Schwarzenegger, tell me what it means to you to be a leader.
To be a leader is very important that you do it from the ground up. You build it from the beginning and then you go crazy.
You go crazy.
I don't know. Sorry, I'm just going off tangent here.
Yeah.
I can't think straight pretending to be Arnold Schwarzenegger about the talent you require for underwriting.
No, I've learned today that in leadership, at the end, I have to go crazy.
Yeah, you need to be great at Power Automate and use AI.
Yeah.
That's probably not the right thing to do as an underwriter. Is to use AI, by the way. We don't do that for our underwriting decisions. Allow me to clarify before my reinsurers go, oh my God.
We talked about your kind of influence in Rokstone and how your team's been, really great at tech adoption, innovation, and working with our central tech team on some of the, the planned initiatives that we've had. I want to get your perspective on how the industry might change and look in the next 10 years of the adoption of AI and other emerging technologies. Obviously, none of us got a crystal ball, but I think you've got a unique perspective. So talk a little bit about how you expect the industry to change over the next 10 years.
Maybe in the voice of Mystic Meg or something.
Yeah.
God, Mystic Meg, that's a blast from the past.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what she sounds like. Yeah. National Lottery, right? Sorry, going back on topic. I think what we're seeing quite a bit of, and everyone I'm sure is experiencing this in one form or another, is that the broking community is getting more savvy about how they are leveraging sort of things like the Marsh Fast Track or the Aon Client Treaty schemes, and many other good brokers have similar schemes in the offing to align sort of ILS capacity and more fluid capacity to whole portfolio level views. And I think there's a general move towards looking at who leads and who follows. And at some point there's an inflection point where you can have too much follow and too little lead and vice versa. It's probably a bit like your pension fund in a way, isn't it? But so I think we're really keen to make sure that we're seen as leaders. We view ourselves very much as leaders in terms of like thought leadership and innovation and creativity, and just hopefully the way we approach risk. We want to partner with the best clients in the respective fields that they work in. And I think I mentioned how, the way we think, we're always trying to sort of ingest and bring in sort of insights from other public databases, or even things like public sentiment analysis and brand recognition from even how jury verdicts might be driven. And as I mentioned earlier, the sort of the ingestion of huge amounts of claims data so we can validate what we're doing. But more than that, the people, as we, the claims side, we're hiring really strong claims adjusters because we want to be seen as a force to lead, i.e. someone that adds value, is seen as being sustainable long-term partner for our clients, underwrites the clients for them and understands who they are and takes the time to do their homework, but also validates that portfolio level loss experience through clever use of data and horizon scanning. And I think the teams that will be the leaders in their respective fields will be those that sort of make the effort to adopt some of these technologies that I guess improve productivity as well and responsiveness to brokers. We want to be a team that is relied upon to get back to people quickly. Not always been easy recently with the amount of work we've had to, been doing, but we really strive to provide a good quality of service. So there's so many areas where I think technology will absolutely benefit in sort of helping us achieve all those things, so that we because we want to be the best of what we do, and that will make us a leader, and we want to be a leader. We want to add value for all our stakeholders.
And what would you say to somebody who may be sitting in a balance sheet company, who may be thinking about going on a similar journey to what you've done, joining a business like Rokstone to set up a synergy business? What would your message be to somebody like that?
I would say do it. Believe in yourself. It's incredibly rewarding. You'll get up in the morning and that level of motivation you have will just be another level higher. Not to say I haven't always worked hard in my career, but I think it's just that sense of satisfaction and drive is just another level again. And what have you got to lose? It's I think a very viable and increasingly relevant way of trading that I think we're just going to see more and more of. And I think if you're a talented individual who's got good tenure of experience and a long career ahead of them, because we want to be a sustainable long-term play, then go for it.
There's no time like the present, is there?
There's no time like the present, and stick it out. It's a bit of a journey. Sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but you've got to be resilient to the hiccups, and but keep pressing, and you'll get there. And I think it's just something that if you're at that level of your career and yearning for something different and feel that you want that satisfaction of taking ownership and responsibility for what you do on a day-to-day basis, if you take a lot of professional pride in what you do, then I think it's a natural step.
So just thinking about business ownership, how's that changed your life? How does it make you feel?
Well, I think it's your baby, isn't it? And like anyone, if it's your children, you want to really, really look after it. I think sometimes the MGAs can be looked at cynically as sort of, searching for that equity event. But we're aligned on performance as well as, income. And, beyond that, it's, the ownership is, you just feel this sense of responsibility and motivation in ways that I've never experienced before in my career. It's just hugely rewarding. It really helps you get up in the morning and go in, and gives you that that drive to push again. I think we've all had moments in our careers where we felt really motivated and we've loved the culture, and we've you putting in 120%. I think having ownership unlocks that in an easier way. You feel to feel aligned to your success. Is you can't understate it. It's kind of obvious really when you say it, isn't it? But it is huge. I think it keeps you very honest, and it's great for recruiting great people because they're aligned with you.
Yeah. Tell us something about you which might surprise all the people at Rokstone who you work with.
I went to drama school when I was 13, 14, 15 sort of thing on the weekends. It was an excuse for my mum to get me out of the house. And I couldn't sing or dance and wasn't very good at drama either. But I went, Amy Winehouse was there with me.
Wow.
So I knew her growing up, which there you are, random factoid.
People might be less surprised about that now they've heard your accents.
Well, I'm not sure she liked me very much. She famously kicked me in the shins pretty hard once, and I'm not sure I ever forgave her for that. But I probably would have made more of an effort if I'd known she was going to turn into the superstar she did. But she grew up in Southgate, which is just up the road from me.
You seen the film, Amy Winehouse?
Yeah, actually, that drama school, Susie Earnshaw's drama school, was in the documentary.
Right.
So sadly I didn't make the cut. But I haven't seen the film, to be fair.
Didn't you go to the premiere with Brad?
No, I didn't go to that one. I went to Paddington 3.
Oh, you went to Paddington 3.
So, Larry, what's one risk that you took, and what is one risk that you nearly didn't, but you're pleased you did?
I think the biggest risk in my career has been, sort of quitting a really good job at a good company like Convex, and nothing against Convex, it's they've gone on to do great things, and the team I work with are phenomenal. But I was like, I've got to do this. It was for me really. The pull factors are huge, and that was a big risk because I had a good job. It was a stable job, that was a bit of a risk. I sort of just threw a hand grenade in there, go right, I'm off. Like why? Well, I've got to do this. Very glad I did, obviously, but even though it's early days. So I think sure. I mean, it's a risk doing an MGA, but it's a rewarding risk.
It's got less risky now, hasn't it? I mean, the way that the market's evolved in the last 5-10 years around MGAs is massive, right? Like, how do you think the perception of our model has changed in the last few years and since you've become closer to it, I guess?
Well, I think what's important is that we are seen to create sustainable and long-term profitable books of business. I think the preconceptions that you can battle against when you're talking about what you're doing to clients and to brokers is that the paper might be not very well rated, and that you're sort of going to hoover income and so on. I mean, that's absolutely not what we're about. We've set out our stall to be modest growth, sustainable, innovative, hire great people that are thought leaders in the space and the best claims adjusters we can get our hands on, with great paper behind us. So and I think that hopefully comes with the quality of talent that MGA is beginning to attract, and also the nature of the way capital is flowing into the sector. I mean, I know Rokstone's got some interesting things on the go, looking at how you can build broader portfolio solutions around different lines of business in the same way that more traditional balance sheets do. And I think that's really interesting and exciting. And I think the more we continue to do those sort of things, the less inherent risk there is in that process, as you say, and the better quality of talent that they'll continue to attract. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge for the more traditional carrier platforms is how do you retain talent when there are MGAs out there looking to bring in good people.
I think there's an argument now when you look at the breadth, long-term nature and the diversification of our backers that we're more insulated from risk and shock than many traditional balance sheet models.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. Yeah. And
if you go for lunch with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be?
God,
why?
These are the sort of questions I've wished I'd read before we sat down. I would take my grandfather to lunch. I think my mum's dad, and maybe my dad's dad too. Actually, take the grandparents out. They both died when I was sort of fairly young, and now that I'm an adult and sort of in my 40s, and all the life lessons and scars you get in your back in the process and all those things, I'd love to sit down and take them out and have a proper chat with them and talk about their experiences in life, because you never really, until you're an adult, it's harder to relate to some of life's experiences that gets thrown at you. And I miss them both. I was thinking about them the other day, funnily enough, and I think that would be a nice way to have a bit of lunch. And they're not famous, but that would be very meaningful to me.
So following that then, where would you take them? In the city or London? Favourite restaurant
Definitely
in the city?
not in the city.
And what would you order?
What would I order? I'd take my grandfather, who grew up in Islington, I think. And he grew up sort of, mind you, he was a fussy eater. He liked eating tin spam. So, I mean, I could probably take him to a fish and chip shop. He'd be very happy with that. And my other grandfather was from Cornwall, so he wouldn't mind a Cornish pasty. So they'd be easy. I'd spoil them if I took them to the city.
You struggle to find a good Cornish pasty in the city, don't you?
Yeah, I could take them to a sandwich bar and they'd be perfectly happy. So that probably doesn't help. What was the question? Which restaurant would I take?
Yeah, favourite restaurant.
My favourite restaurant, Raj. Is it Raj 2 or Raj 1? Is round the corner from the office. I've only been there like 5 times, but I love that place.
It is a good curry.
I do like a good curry, and Brigadier's is pretty good.
Yeah. Have you been to the Tamil Prince in Islington?
Lamb chop.
Yeah.
Tamil Prince I've been to, yeah.
How's that rate? I've not been there yet. I want to.
The one time I went, they were having like a Greek-Indian fusion barbecue day, so it was the only day I didn't actually get to experience their traditional menu.
That doesn't sound like two things that should fuse that well.
They had a lamb on the spit, and they'd curried it, and so it was like Kleftico, but with sort of South Indian spices, and it was actually delicious. It was a good mashup.
Nice. The Brigadier's lamb chop. I reckon that's the best lamb chop in the London.
I think they're like 15 quid each.
They're mental.
But they're worth it.
Yeah, I heard that I think they might be the same. I heard that the Gymkhana is like 17 quid for a pint of Guinness.
Oh wow! Okay. Yeah. I mean,
I
draw the line at 15.
Yeah,
I was going to say that
For a
kind
lamb
of sets the world on inflation,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
Yeah. So Larry, if you were starting insurance tomorrow, starting your career again, what would you tell yourself?
what would I tell myself? Oh, wow. I mean, the amount of things I've learned about insurance, I tell myself it's not just about gocomparethemarket.com. I think it's an incredibly rewarding career. And if anyone's interested in a career in a sort of financy, analytical job, but is also sort of, enjoys the social side of managing relationships and being outwards facing, I think it's a phenomenal career. Obviously, that's more of an underwriting slant, but the bit about the job that I really enjoy is the fact we get to meet so many different clients from different walks of life and really grill them about what they do. I think it's a real privilege, and I can really geek out with some of these clients, who are maybe pioneering new autonomous robotic solutions for rail yard switching or cars, driverless cars, or pioneering new renewable energy sources, or or interesting products categories, and everything in between. All of industry. We see the whole sort of supply chain, and you get to see how it all sort of flows and connects together in a weird way. And so, yeah, that's nice, and I enjoy that a lot. And it is sociable as well. It's a very relationship-driven business. I enjoy the fact that you get to interact with our brokers. I love the fact we get to go into Lloyd's, which had a bit of a blip there in COVID, but I feel is back. And it's a real trading hub, and it makes a real difference. I think it's great for like new hires that we've just brought on as a UA. I mean, he was a guy who worked in logistics in Northampton, who's just moved to London to be our UA because he wants to have that career in insurance. And so I think the message is out there. It's a great career. And of course, if you're not into underwriting or broking, if you're more mathematically minded, we've got actuarial science, innovation now with what we're doing with technology. I think there's opportunity across such a broad spectrum. It's a great place to work.
Thank you, Larry, for today. Really appreciate you coming on and hearing your perspective, and hope everyone else will enjoy the content.
Thanks for everything you bring to Rokstone.
Oh, thank you, guys. Thanks for the opportunity. And this has been great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
That's it for this week's episode of Virtual Lunch.
Subscribe now so you don't miss an episode.
We'll be back next week. Same time, same table. See you then.